Hi everyone, welcome to this month's free market commentary. In this month's commentary we'll have a little look on the Dow as well as the S&P and just have a little look at what they've been doing. We'll also have a look at cable and euro as well as Aussie CAD or something I want to cover in that. So quite a bit to get through. Now February's been quite an unusually quiet month as far as good tradable opportunities. So obviously the markets have been moving, and subject to what you trade in your strategy, you may have found it to be an effective month. But based on pullbacks, reversals, and even breakouts, there has been quite a limitation to it because the markets have just lost a little bit of the great flow that we had over December and January. And bearing in mind, in December we were easily over 10% return. January we hit 10% again. So when you have two great months like that, it's not a surprise for it then to be quite quiet. So I only have one trade this month from a swing basis. That's the discretionary one I've done a previous video for. So check out the website or the Facebook page if you want to have a look at that. So as far as trades to go through, really it's just a question more so because the market hasn't been as good. Really what we want to do with this commentary is look at where could we then look at potential trade opportunities, because subsequently there hasn't been a great deal to go through. Now when we look at the Dow, one of the issues we had with the Dow that's happened, for instance, is the Dow made this lovely low for us at the start of the month. Now, when you're looking at pullbacks, one of the things you're always looking at is good momentum. And the difficulty we had is it did a nice break of these levels, but when it pulled back into them, it didn't show any good signals that would give us a potential short opportunity. And also, when it came down to these levels, we never really got anything of a decent consolidation to consider going on the breakout. So again, it's not that the market hasn't moved, it's just whether or not they present opportunities. Now, in both situations, if I had traded a breakout, I would be looking for it to maybe come back to about 15,000. So I would have had a loser. And if you took a pullback here, again, you would have a loser. Now, within that, the next stage would be to look here and see, could you take a possible short down here based on the reversal opportunity here or a longer term pullback. But again, the problem is when you look at the subsequent time frames, what you'll notice is on the weekly, when we did these moves up, we actually were putting in a really strong bullish bias, which is why the short at this level wasn't looking as good. So one of the things I was keeping an eye out for was to see if we could get a reasonable consolidation here and play that up the way it's kind of broken out. But in all truth, when you actually look at the last fortnight, these candles are just really horrible, really messy, and they're not giving us a lot of clarity because we're getting breakout, but that's retracing. We're getting indecision, we're getting moves down, moves up. We've even broken out on Friday there, but again, that candle there is telling us more indecision than it is giving us a definite bullish bias. So it's just not been the cleanest as far as the movement goes in the Dow. So what I would be looking for is, rather than the breakout at this stage, we're looking to see what happens over the coming month to see if we can reach these previous highs. And if we reach there, what do we get? Because that would be a good level to consider a reversal opportunity. Or alternatively, if we can pause and put in enough good price movement, then I could consider the long opportunity. Either or, I can consider it at that level. But until it gets there, it's not doing enough for me to want to trade it in between where we are now and up to that level. What you could look at is, if you want more intraday basis of trading, then potentially if we can break here, you could look for small pullbacks or breakouts from here up to here. It's not the cleanest of areas, so you could find we get a bit volatile, so that's the only thing as a word of caution. Now, just from that perspective, one of the other things that would be good to look at then is if we have a look at the S&P. And one of the things we were looking at in the room was what happens if the S&P hits its previous highs. And again, you can see that's where we're getting the indecision. So there's a potential where we got that on the Dow. It might be the S&P that created that for us, and that's something that's interesting and again to be aware of. Now, because the S&P has actually broken the highs, one of the things that we could then look for is if we can break high enough, the pullback opportunity. Now, how that would coincide with the Dow is, we want to make sure that the Dow can break this level. So the danger that we have is if the S&P moves up and pulls back, we want to look at where the Dow is and just make sure that the Dow hasn't hit these levels here and is starting to reverse. as this move down, there's where the pullback sets up, and then obviously that doesn't work. So it's just something to be aware of. But because the S&P is now broken out, that's given that some space, which means if the Dow then can reach these highs, one, that could potentially be good for a reversal, because I don't have to wait for the S&P, and secondly, if we consolidate, the breakout could be on, and the S&P doesn't have the resistance is a problem. So I'd be looking out for them in the month of March. Now, currency wise, if we have a little look at the euro firstly, now to be honest, the euro's been pretty much in a bit of a horrible range for the last couple of months. Coming into Christmas, and I think this was just after Christmas on the 27th, we put in this really strong candle where we got a lot of reversal, but it wasn't at a great area, and the candle was so big that playing that candle would be very difficult. But we're now getting back to this level here. So one of the things we would want to see on the euro over the coming month is, can we retest and break this area here? Because really, as far as the reversals go, I wouldn't be keen on the reversal, because in essence we're putting in a bit of an ascending triangle pattern here. So if we were to come up, it could be good for a breakout opportunity to go long, and that would be far better. But what we also have to look at is, where are the next levels, and when we go to the higher time frames, what we can see is, do we have enough space to the upside? On the monthly, there's definitely some space. There might be some minor areas we want to consider off of the weekly, so you'll just want to keep an eye on those and see, is there anything that could prevent this hitting your target area based on the higher time frames. But I would certainly be more bullish euro going into this month, and see what happens if we get to this area, if it presents a tradable opportunity. Cable, on the other hand, or pound euro, has actually been just a little bit cleaner in that we've had this move down, and again we've been consolidating for a while. Bit of sideways movement, but then we broke out of there. Now, we did do this pullback, and to be honest, it's not been the cleanest. And when you actually look again at the candles, once we got this sort of reversal candle here, we've had a reversal in the opposing direction, almost a reversal. There's another reversal, and then on Friday we've broken out. So it's not been the cleanest. And one of the challenges may have been risk to reward with this, but on that basis, the momentum definitely is looking more likely to be on the upside. So I will be looking to see if we can get back to these highs. What are the opportunities there? If we take it to the higher time frame, we can also see that we've now managed to get above this level, and that's where we're sitting on. So if we actually consolidate up at this area, a breakout could be quite nice. The only slight issue is we have a couple of areas here. So from a swing point of view, that could prove problematic from target. But whether it's day trade or swing, depending on risk to reward, depending on the setup, we'll see if it can present anything to us. Alternatively, if we come into these areas and put in a strong enough reversal on the weekly, that might present a short opportunity. But at the moment, when I look at the daily, I would certainly have a slightly long bias, but realising that we're coming into traffic could make it tricky. So we'll see what happens. Now, just to finish this month, I just want to cover Aussie CAN. Now, this is something I have covered in the previous commentaries, and one of the things I was highlighting was the danger of good candles. What you'll notice is, on the 6th of February, we came in and we back to this previous high, and we put in an absolutely beautiful reversal candle. But one of the things I was highlighting is, really we were at no man's land. We weren't anywhere particular. We hadn't quite reached these highs, and although we had come into some levels, we were sitting a little above them, and it just wasn't clean. And the reason I was highlighting it is, it's important that we don't allow candles to be too important. It's more so the candles at the right place. And what's interesting is, if anyone shorts here, and obviously for the market that must have happened with the market moving down, they potentially would have been stopped out by now. Then you get another one, similar fashion here, really strong reversal candle, and again the market moves down, and again price then pulls up, and it's only once we finally hit this level here, this significant high, that we now see the market starting to roll over. Now, don't get me wrong, there is some indecision and even a long reversal candle in here, but most importantly, it's not until we reach a significant level that we start to get a better area to look for that candle. Now, combine that with price analysis, because again, the candle alone would never be enough for me. However, Now that we're coming back into this area, that potentially could be quite good. So if we can consolidate here, break down, pull back, then it looks like we could see some reasonable opportunities from there. So we'll see what happens. So that's us for this month's commentary. I know it's a bit longer than normal, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.